couple of easy mistakes to be made. Number one, getting over here too early. In other words, not having baked your business model or your revenue model before you get over here, or gotten some initial traction. So if you come over here too early, be prepared for some pretty serious criticism. So just make sure you validate your model in Australia before you get here. Number two, attitude. Come over with the right attitude. In other words, you're going to be the world's best. Nick's point about, you know, being a great salesperson goes a long way in this country. I mean, Americans are by far the best salespeople in the world. So you better be able to cut it with them. So none of this feeble, stand in a corner, passive selling approaches. You've got to be out there. I mean, it's the way, it's the culture. You've got to be able to do that. So adjust your attitude before you get over here. Number three, I think one of the biggest mistakes companies make when they get over here is they go way too wide, way too thin. Okay, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's the common problem. Just focus. I mean, yes, validate your model down in Australia with a little bit of breadth, right, to be able to justify your model, but understand when you get here, you've got to drill really, really deep into one or two verticals, because those verticals will probably be 5 times the size of the Australian marketplace.
Really know the competitive landscape here. What I see often is companies coming across from Australia, and you ask them, who are your competitors in this space in America? And they kind of give you 3 names, but there might be 80 competitors in the landscape, and they haven't gone beyond level 1 in analyzing the sector. And you've got to be absolutely fanatical about that. The second concept that I want to emphasize is you've got to know the zeitgeist of America. You know, you've got to be right into American media, particularly business media.
I think the technical definition of marketing is satisfying consumer wants and needs. So if that's true, then it starts from the very moment, I guess, that you begin to develop the idea. Even if you're just developing it yourself, bouncing it off a few people to get the concept, you know, so that it seems to make sense before you actually start selling it and offering it. So if you think of the product life cycle from inception to when it's sold, maybe that, and therefore the answer, Nina, is, of course, you know, it starts at the beginning.
I don't think you should hire a PR and marketing person straight away. I think I think you should read a couple of books on it and do what the books say, because that'll cost you $35 and the other one will cost you $3,500 a month. And truly, if you read one good book on it and actually institute what it says, you can do a pretty damn good job of doing basic PR and low-level marketing.
There's a concept that was around for a little while, and I think it still exists, it's just not called it, but it's called Twitter Cash. And Twitter Cash is not just paying Ashton Kutcher or Lady Gaga to say something and paying her some money for saying it, but in fact, Virgin America was doing this for a while, where if I had a large Twitter following, which I don't, and I tweeted out that the flight I just did on Virgin America was awesome, and their new service from here to there, you know, the waitress, whatever, the air hostie that was on the thing is awesome or whatever, then Virgin America was paying me money, which meant free flights to different locations around the US. So just think about that as a business model. It's kind of interesting because they're just bartering product, and yet they're jumping on the back of something that's been around for 250,000 years, which is called word of mouth, or people I trust, or friends and family, etc. I mean, obviously all social has done is just magnify an individual's ability to give their perspective on a product or service.
It's not the good way, it's the best way, and for many people it's the only way, especially in terms of getting started. There's an interesting book written by Seth Godin called Tribes. So you have to work through your tribes. And we all have the experience that amongst our own friends, there's one person we talk to who knows more about cars. We want to buy a car. There's someone when you move to America who knows more about which school to send your kids to, and so on. So if you forget everything about early learning lessons about coming to America, learn that the social graph or your particular community or your network is the thing you invest in first and will pay you the highest dividend.
Look, I think it's important to not just have a psychographic audience in mind, like we're after people who do this, but a demographic rather, but to be deep on psychographics. So yes, they are this age and they live in this location, but what are their fears? You know, what are their hopes? What are their dreams? Where are they uncomfortable? Where do they have secret pain? You know, how do they feel about other people? How do they feel about their life going forward, or this industry or this product going forward? And that's where the richness is, and that's where often niches are found, and that's where ongoing relationship is formed in what they stand for and what they believe, rather than who they technically are. And most people, I find, don't do that kind of work. And some, when they're coming from Australia, say, how can we do that type of work? And the answer is that you ask them.
The one thing I think you really, really need to give a lot of thought to is customer loyalty.
If I was talking to some Australian entrepreneurs, I think the first thing I'd say is unless your product offering is intrinsically Australian and has a reason for being Australian, don't be Australian. I mean, who gives a shit? But as far as business, they don't care. So forget your Australianism, right? And just think about the business. And then the second simple piece of advice is, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, boil the ocean, solve the world or whatever, what can you jump on the back of that already exists?